Toby, Dave, how was the countdown? Dave, it was your first experience.
That was incredible. Absolutely incredible.
It's so danceable too.
Yeah, I know. It really set the stage. I love that.
It did. It was lovely build up. The particle effects were great, and Toby and I were pretty convinced last week that you were the one that created that. So you should have kept with that.
Yeah, I did it. Me. Thank you.
Great job.
Hello.
Just
Hello.
Hello. So Dave, you know what the best thing is? When you comment, it comes through as LinkedIn user.
How do you know it's me?
I have an iPad over here that says it's you.
He's logged into your account.
Oh, really? But okay. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I don't know why. But
maybe it's something to do with the fact that you're probably authed onto this to allow us to stream.
Could be. I like the anonymity. Thanks.
Yeah, but you only get it here. That's the only anonymity. Yeah. Anonymity. It's like Finding Nemo. Toby, you like Finding Nemo, right? You're a Pixar person.
Great movie. That movie is so underrated. And then Finding Dory, also very underrated. I don't think kids truly understand
Wait a minute. What do you mean by underrated? You know that they were rated unbelievably high and grossed an incredible amount of money. What is your version of underrated?
Whatever that is, deserves more. Something can be greatly rated, but still underrated. If you rated 98 instead of 99, you're underrated.
I think it was rated 100.
Wow.
Scale stopped at 100, Toby. You can't go any higher. That's like when people say give it 110%. It's ridiculous. Anyways, scale stops at 100. All right. Today, welcome to Friday 15. We're kind of getting, I guess we're 3.5 minutes in. We can kind of get going here. Today, we're talking about current events and specifically what's happened in the last week, since this kind of seems to be a theme of doing this once a week. You want to jump in, Toby, Dave? We ready to roll?
Yeah,
let's rock.
All right, let's talk about Disney Plus first. And Mulan is coming to Disney Plus. $29.99. Big price. $30. But we were trying to figure out what the difference is between Disney Plus doing the $30 rental and Universal partnering with all the different services, iTunes, Prime, doing a $20 rental. And what's the $10 discrepancy here? And Toby, I think you pointed out, or maybe it was Dave, that as long as you stay a Disney Plus subscriber, you own the movie.
Yes. As long as you don't quit Disney Plus, you own the movie and you can watch it multiple times. And if you compare it to going to the theaters to watch a movie, for example, Disney Plus account, I will assume your entire household is going to watch the movie, approx. Let's say you're a household of 5. So it's somewhat cheaper than going to the movies itself. I guess you miss out on the experience of buying overpriced popcorn, but
in the early morning matinee that Dave pointed out, he only goes early morning matinees.
Wow. What time do you go to the movies, Dave?
Before lunch, 10:30 or 11 o'clock showing.
Oh, that's afternoon for Toby.
Yeah, I thought we're thinking 7 a.m.
Toby's been up.
They're not
5.5 hours by that point.
Already took a nap today, actually.
What? All right. I can't get into that. Anyways, I think the interesting thing is, and I'm going to throw a curveball into this, the whole notion that you still own Mulan after you buy it, as long as you're Disney Plus. Don't you get it anyways once it becomes part of the catalog? So do you truly own it, or are you just paying $30 to have it early?
That's what it feels like to me.
Summed it up. Yeah.
Curveball there. But Disney Plus is growing like crazy. 60.5 million subscribers, they announced. And it was interesting. I think I read at one point that Disney Plus or Disney did not plan on announcing or giving any data related to the subscribers. But I think with COVID and the forced closure of all their different parks, they probably saw the numbers come in, saw that they were really great, really early, and said, you know what, we need to do this. Announced it, and the stock price reflected that was a good thing. I think they're around $80 some a share. They're up about $110 a share, something like that, and kind of fluctuate around there. I mean, obviously, buying Marvel, Lucasfilms, seems to be paying off.
And even like doing stuff like Hamilton and this movie, like they just have so much content for real. And a lot of like loyalty to the Disney franchise. They have so many like Star Wars, as you already said. So like just it feels like even if someone's preferred streaming option is like Netflix, you will still want to have Disney Plus because you can't find those content anywhere else.
Dave has literally every single streaming service, he said.
I thought I did, but now I'm looking at a list because I was curious how that subscriber base compares to others, and there are a bunch that I hadn't considered.
Oh, you should probably go get them. I think there's Peacock is the new one from NBC. You absolutely need to go get that right now. Sign up for a trial and forget, and then have it forever. Toby, we need to send him more services to sign up for. Dave can't.
He's gonna sign up.
Which is also similar that if anyone comes at my front door and tries to sell me something, I can't say no. And I'm still waiting for 12 Marvel books to show up from 2 years ago that I paid cash, and I'm pretty sure are never coming.
Never.
All right. That's Dave, you got something?
Well, yeah. Something interesting to note is that puts them in third in terms of subscribers. Netflix is at 183 million.
Okay.
Prime Video's at 75 million, and then Disney comes in third at 60.5 now.
Can Prime Video actually say that though? I mean, you get it free with Prime,
right? So that's really just like Prime membership.
It's just like people using Microsoft Teams. It just kind of shows up on your doorstep.
Wow!
You knew I was going there, Toby. All right, let's move on from streaming services. And we actually have a guest backstage that's going to join us for the rest of the show. He doesn't know that I'm bringing him in now. He has something that he's going to talk about, but we'll get there eventually. Stu, welcome. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
Good. We're gonna jump into another topic. If you have interest in this, want to talk about it, please feel free to jump in at any point. But we're going to talk about TikTok. And Dave, as our legal correspondent, what are your thoughts on any type of legal issues TikTok might be in right now? Anyways, Toby, let us know.
Yeah, go to Toby.
So we know TikTok. There's a lot going on with the U.S. government, and we're certainly not going to discuss that largely because I don't know that we know everything there. But what we do know is that Instagram launched Reels, which is an attempt to go against TikTok. But Toby, you pointed out when we were talking about this that this has been in development for a year.
Yeah, probably even more, because I think when TikTok as a new form is similar to when Snapchat like launched stories. It's just like a different format of displaying content. So Instagram has been working at, I think Facebook first launched a product called Lasso that was kind of a pilot of like a TikTok clone, but that didn't like fly. And then they just decided as a product team to integrate that experience into Instagram, just like stories was integrated into Instagram as well. But lately, I think this week, because of all the news, I think it kind of expedited the rollout globally and in the US to just kind of compete now with TikTok. And I think to quote them, is like every product is different. So TikTok and Instagram Reels is definitely different. I think Reels has 15-second time limit. TikTok has 1 minute, I think. But curious to see how it succeed. I'm always, even though I don't use Facebook, I'm always a huge fan of their engineering team. So curious to see how that goes.
So are you making a strong statement that Instagram and Facebook did not take TikTok and remake it? Are you making that strong statement that Instagram was actually ahead of the curve and been working on this for a while?
Oh, no. They saw it successful on TikTok and then copied it and brought it into Instagram. But they've been copying it for a longer time, not just like since the government started talking about it.
Stu, do you use TikTok?
I do not. I occasionally consume. I never produce. So I don't have the app, but I will see it via other platforms typically. And I don't particularly care who owns it, since they don't have my data. But it's certainly an interesting little quandary they found themselves in between the government and Microsoft.
What's your stance on Instagram? Are you an Instagram fan?
It falls for me under because it falls under the Facebook umbrella of families. I kind of ditched the platform when I went Facebook free. And again, now I will follow a few pages sort of unofficially, not through an account, but fans that I follow, I'll check them out every now and then. Sometimes the old incognito tab is useful,
So it sounds like Dave and I should leave the stream, and you and Toby should debate on the merits of Facebook. That seems like good content.
Wait, is Toby? Are you pro
Oh,
Facebook?
Toby's very pro Facebook, but he's going to
Okay.
go into this whole thing. Hold on, he's going to get fired up. He's going to go into this whole thing on how he's not pro Facebook, but he's pro Facebook's engineers.
Okay, I thought he was going to be like pro Zuck for a second there.
We had him replace his Zuckerberg poster with the wall art behind him. He had a pop art version of Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, we asked if he'd replace it.
Yeah, no, yeah, but in terms of Stu, I totally get what you mean in terms of going Facebook free. A little spoiler for you that whether or not you're on Facebook, you do have a pseudo profile of a fake Stu that is out there.
That is true. I left Facebook for a number of months, and then I rejoined in a very limited fashion just to interact with a few specific groups. So that ship was resailed. They probably linked the old data to the new data and keep on adding fresh data. So yes, I'm under no illusion that Facebook knows nothing about me. But
there's nothing like rejoining Facebook after a while and being completely shocked and appalled by what is being posted, and then deactivating it immediately. I did that recently. I played Call of Duty Mobile, and I tied it to my Facebook account, which then reactivated my Facebook account because I didn't want to log in as a guest. I wanted to save my data. It reactivated my Facebook account. I opened it up, I looked at it, and I went, "Oh no!" So I went back and I deactivated it. But then every once in a while, I forget and I open up Call of Duty again. And same thing happens, and then I go, oh well, maybe Facebook's different this time. I go to it, all the fans on my CPU spin up because I'm in Safari and on Facebook. I don't know what's doing there, and then I scroll down and see the first or second post, and I go, nope, can't be here. And
that happens every time you open Call of Duty.
Yeah. But then you can connect it with a Call of Duty account, an Activision account, and I can't figure it out. So maybe next episode we'll break down my troubles with Call of Duty accounts. So I do think it's neat that Microsoft's gonna go after TikTok. I think it's interesting because just by Microsoft's interest in TikTok, I think it's kind of shined a new light on them. They're very businessy. Yeah, they've got the Xbox, but I just think, what's that?
GitHub.
Oh yeah. But I don't know. I think by Microsoft making a pitch for TikTok, I just think in general it exposes them to an incredibly different audience that might now view them as ahead of the curve or something like that. All right. So we are going to talk about SpaceX, but before we do that, Stu, you want to talk about Google's most recent launch of the new Pixel 4 something. What is it?
Yeah, this is early this week, August 3rd, I think, was the announcement of the next generation of Pixels. And what I would love to say, I'm gonna give you a really clean picture of what their strategy is with these Pixels, but I can't because I don't know that there is one. So I'll tell you what's happening and what I think the influences are. But so the 4A is what was released this week, and that's sort of their mid-year, lower price, lower spec, sort of high internals but lower material costs. Version of whatever the previous year's flagship was. So the previous flagship was the Pixel 4. The 4A has come out now, and it's a little bit later in the year. Normally, they're on an October release cycle for their flagships, and so middle of that year is a little bit earlier. And Google have said that they delayed this release specifically for COVID. It's not clear if that's production impact or whether it's it was felt that releasing a new product into the marketplace was poor timing. Obviously, they differ from Apple in terms of how they chose to accommodate that timing. But they've released this 4A, and they've released at a very competitive price point, especially compared to their previous budget options. So this is at $350 starting point for the phone. Previous year, the 3A was starting around $500. So it's a big step down in terms of price. And so far, reviews seem pretty great. They've shied away from, in all previous years for a long time now, the Pixel range has come with a regular size and an XL version. And this is the first time, I think, for a while now that we have a 4A, but no 4A XL. So there's a little bit of questioning, is this Google moving away from large screen sizes and large devices? And then as we talked about a little bit before the stream, the 4A was the main point of this event on August 3rd. But at the bottom of the announcements that they put out, there was a lot of talk about Pixel 5 and 4A 5G coming in just 2 months.
I was stunned by you mentioned we talked about this. I was stunned by that email. I've got a Pixel 3 and I think was it Google Fi is my server, however Fi feed. But when they announced the 4A, the email, you scroll down and it's 4A 5G and Pixel 5 5G coming soon. I'm like, I don't know what the logic is there. Like, hey, we got this great new thing, but don't buy it because a better one's coming, and in a short amount of time.
2 months.
Yeah, and you have to think that the 4A 5G carrying that same A designation, it's not like that's going to be the next flagship in terms of pricing. It's not like, well, you'll still be interested in buying this 4A now because it's going to be way cheaper than what's coming. It should be a little bit cheaper, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be as big a gap. So it definitely seems like it's likely to cannibalize. They're obviously trying to get themselves back on their regular October release schedule. But yeah, very interesting. And I'm guessing part of that also is, COVID was pushing the 4A from one side, and then being competitive in the 5G market is probably pushing them from the other side. Like they can't delay too long with the 5G era phones. Once people see that as a differentiator, if Google doesn't have an entry in the marketplace, then they'll have lost another round of potential hardware sales to competitors. So we also know it seems pretty likely at this point that the Pixel 5 has no large screen equivalent either, and they're pitching that as like a high-end mid-range phone. So previous flagship Pixels have been priced in the $900 to $1,000 range for the large versions, and that's clearly like premium pricing. This year, it looks like they're going for maybe around $750 for the Pixel 5. Still more of a premium price, but not necessarily latest generation processor. A little bit more focus on efficiency rather than outright power. So there's a whole bunch of different product shifts and mindset shifts coming from Google in the space of the next couple of months, which I just think is really interesting.
I would very much welcome a more focused product strategy by Google. We had talked earlier. What I'm talking about, Toby. There's an article on TechCrunch right now about the history of product development for Gmail, and I can only assume that is one heck of a roller coaster read with a little pit stop on Inbox, which I think we all miss very much. Those bundled emails, they just worked.
Yeah.
All right. So let's anything else to add on Pixel, Stu, before we move on? We got two more topics that we're only going to hit pretty lightly here. Then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, nothing more from me. I just my advice to everyone is just keep an eye out, and I wouldn't move too fast on 4As unless you absolutely need a device. I'd wait a couple months and see what the landscape looks like then.
So their email worked to let you know not to buy the new product. That's really great. All right. So we got SpaceX Dragon took off into orbit this week, right, Toby?
Yes. I think
Dave, what are your thoughts?
Hey, the show notes said don't ask me, but I saw this coming, so I did a little bit of quick research. It returned to Earth, right? The SpaceX Dragon returned to Earth on August 2nd, which was SpaceX's first human journey into space. I think they've mostly launched satellites. And it ended a 9-year pause on the U.S. sending people to space. And I think the most interesting quote from one of the astronauts riding it was that it felt like being inside of an animal.
So,
Wow.
Did they elaborate
One
on
heck of a
that?
ride.
Is it like in Star Wars where it's warm? I don't know what that animal was. But, Stu, do you know the animal in Star Wars or no?
I don't know it. No, I know the one you're thinking of. Yeah, where
yeah,
shelters in there.
I
Yeah,
think it's a bantha or something. Yeah.
I don't know.
Or was it like the Revenant? Is that what he's talking about?
They do it in that movie too.
Giant bear.
I'd love to know what the point of reference is there. Like, what animal has he been inside to know?
Yeah, right. Yeah. How many animals has he stored himself into on a cold galaxy far, far away? That's an interesting take on it. But either way, it's cool. Clearly, we don't know much about the SpaceX Dragon because we had to Google everything before this. We're not space aficionados.
But a private company now involved in space travel. I mean, that's actually taking humans into space. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
I mean, that part is certainly incredible, and it's interesting how many rich people love rockets. Here we go. There it is.
Oh,
Tauntaun.
Tauntaun.
That's right.
There it is.
sounds like a nickname I could take.
You're gonna be Tauntaun?
No.
All right, Tauntaun. Thank you. All right, we're moving on. Last little one. We're not going to talk about this very much because I think it's still something that's in process here. Apple announced that the App Store guidelines have been violated by Stadia and xCloud. There's also another one, Facebook Gaming, violated them. I'm not 100% sure which guidelines were violated. Toby, I don't know if you are, but I will, mention that Stadia is Google's streaming game platform. So you're playing a game, but you're just streaming everything. The game's not actually local on the device. Same with xCloud. That's Microsoft's gaming platform. I signed up for Stadia when it came out. I got one of those Founders Edition controllers and all little Chromecast. Never once have I used it. So I eventually canceled it, but I paid a solid 6 months of fees before I canceled.
Classic.
Well, I was under the impression that if you got Stadia, you got all the games with it.
Oh no.
You know, like how like TV works. That's what I was. You say like you 100% knew that. Did you know that early on?
I knew that you have to pay for it.
Oh,
because I was under the same assumption as well.
I paid monthly. So I thought like if I paid monthly, I would get access to all of these games for free.
To bring it back full circle, it's like Disney Plus. When they release a movie, you pay extra for the movie.
Okay, well, I wasn't thrilled about that. Anyways, so Toby, do you know Toby the Tauntaun? Toby, do you know you don't know which guidelines they
No, I did not. I think Dave read it.
Dave, did you Google it?
I did. Yeah, I just did.
Are you the guidelines and space expert today?
I'm back up here. So, and actually, this makes sense. They offer access. Apps like xCloud offer access to apps Apple can't individually review.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Wow.
Well, it's kind of interesting timing after the antitrust hearings that there's a guideline thing that popped up, and we all know some of the other drama that has taken place over Apple guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
We'll leave it at that. I won't share my opinions. Anything else to add, Dave?
Indeed.
Toby, Stu? Toby, you got more? Go.
So this is for Stu, and you can keep it as short as possible. This weekend, Silverstone again. Podium.
It's easy. It's an easy Lewis on top. There's no question there. I have to feel like Bottas is going to be second because Mercedes are going to figure out whatever went wrong with their tires last weekend. Mm-hmm. And for third, who did we have last time? It's going to be Max, surely. Max in third. He just keeps getting everything he can out of that Red Bull.
Nice.
So predictable, but I'll take it.
So for anyone who doesn't have a clue what they're talking about, which is Dave,
No,
and maybe
Formula One.
every
I know
single
it's
other
Formula
person watching, they're talking about F1 racing, Formula One racing, and they do more than left-hand turns, and I believe that is why Toby appreciates
Left and right hand turns. Yeah. And normally every single race in a different country. This year, there's been a little bit of doubling up to lengthen the calendar out again. But yeah,
But doesn't
it's pretty
Hamilton
serious.
win every race?
He wins a lot, but he's British. And so, I'm kind of okay with it.
Okay, that's fair. All right, I think that's everything that we have today for our stuff. We'll return next week with another week in review. Labs Live is at least F1 is Formula One racing. I think everything's on a delay here. Labs Live is not for a couple weeks. I think we'll post when we're ready to announce that one. Before we leave, it's actually Stu's last day at Detroit Labs. Yes, we got most of the emotions out before we joined. But Stu, I did want to send a heartfelt thank you for every single thing that you've done for Detroit Labs, everything that we've learned from you, and you're a big cornerstone and piece of Detroit Labs history. And making us who we are today. So I greatly appreciate it. Doors always open, and hope you find wonderful success in your new gig. And they are lucky to have you.
Thank you, Dan. I will reflect it back and say Detroit Labs it's been my first development job, and it's looking back, it's incredible how far I have come as an individual in the context of Detroit Labs. And I'm not sure I could have done it many other places. So I am very, very grateful for what Detroit Labs has offered, and I look forward to paying it forward for sure.
Awesome. And everyone else on the stream is crying, including Lauren. Anyways, it's not easy to get Lauren to cry. Thank you, everybody. We will sign off. I'm going to move everyone backstage as we wrap this up. Don't forget to go to our social channels, follow us, right, Dave? Bell icons, all those different things for when we upload again.
Instagram Reels.
Toby will be on Instagram Reels, so find him on the Instagram. He'll be on the Reels, and we'll talk to everybody later. Thanks.
All right, farewell.
See ya.